And hi, everybody, and welcome to Around the Ancient Eight, our weekly look at men's and women's basketball here in the Ivy League. I'm Dan Loney. Today, we're going to preview the slate of games on the men's side, and joining us is John Ryan, who is the Ivy League Digital Network correspondent for the Yale Bulldogs, and he joins us from New Haven, Connecticut. John, thanks for a couple minutes today.
Thanks, Dan.
John, the Bulldogs are 5-1 right now in league play, and it would seem like they're going to be a team that's going to be there at the end contending for the league crown.
Well, Dan, it's been a really interesting time, I think, for the Yale basketball program. Last season, the men's hockey team went down to Pittsburgh and went to the Frozen Four, won the national championship. And I think that for a lot of Yale fans that kind of drew their attention away from the basketball team. We've seen some smaller crowds at the John Jay Lee Amphitheater. But I think that this year, between Javier Duran and Justin Sears, the Bulldogs have really seen a resurgence. And, those two have been great all season. Justin Sears looks like one of the best players in the Ivy League, and Javier Duran's there at the end of the games to make the clutch plays. But I think really the difference this season for the Bulldogs and why I'm excited the rest of the way has been the other players on the team, some of the role players. So Armani Cotton, for example, this is a guy who struggled with his shot in the games going into Ivy League play. But so far this season, this conference season, he shot 50% from the three-point line, averaging, I think, more than 7 rebounds a game, going on with 12 points. He's really kind of stepped up as a third option for the Bulldogs, and that's something that's been important so far in the Ivy League, and I think will be important the rest of the way. Another guy, Brandon Sherrod, has established himself as a go-to scorer when Justin Sears isn't on the floor. He can operate down low and has some good moves. So I'm really optimistic about the Bulldogs the rest of the season. And we know that James Jones has the experience in the Ivy League to keep them going the rest of the way.
Talk a little bit about Justin Sears' play, because he has really seemed to take over this team as one of its lead options.
Well, I think the number one thing that jumps to mind when I think of Justin Sears is just his athleticism, his ability to take contact and still finish at the rim. And you'll see a lot of Yale plays where it's basically just throw the ball up in the air in the middle of the lane and Justin Sears will out-jump everyone to get it. And it puts him in these positions where he's close to the basket, he can score. And I think the big difference this season with his play has been his ability to get to the free throw line. He's leading the Ivy League in fouls drawn per 40 minutes. And this season, a big difference has been he's actually been able to make those free throw attempts. Last season, he shot, I think, 58% from the stripe. This season, he's up at 71%. And in Ivy League play, he's above 80%. If he can keep that up, that will be key to him being the Bulldogs' most productive player the rest of the way. I also think that he's showing off some other skills. He can put the ball on the floor a little bit, but at the same time, he's not turning it over very much. One of the lowest turnover percentages on the Yale team. And also, I think the rest of the Bulldogs recognize what a force Justin Sears is. James Jones drawing up a lot of good sets to get him the ball in advantageous places. And even though the Bulldogs haven't been able to necessarily shoot the three as well this season, they haven't been able to open the floor. His other big men have been good, Matt Townsend and Brandon Sherrod. That opens up some space down low for him to work. And he's really just been a thrill to watch all season.
It's going to be a challenging weekend for Yale coming up, but with Penn and Princeton at home. But overall, what do you see for the league slate this weekend?
Well, I think this weekend's is just a huge weekend, Dan. They talk about Saturday at the Masters as moving day. I think this might be moving weekend in the Ivy League. Harvard, of course, the favorites going on the rest of the way. But my attention this weekend is focused in Providence and in New Haven, where Penn and Princeton coming to play Yale and Brown. Penn, Brown, and Yale are the next three teams behind Harvard in the Ivy League. And if Princeton plays well this season, or this weekend, there's a chance that all three of those teams could leave this weekend with 3 losses. And I think at that point, you have to start looking at if Harvard can sweep this weekend, they're the prohibitive favorites the rest of the way. So I'm really interested in what happens in Connecticut and Rhode Island this weekend, and I'm specifically really excited for, I think, a big matchup in the Yale-Princeton game, which will be T.J. Bray and Javier Duran, two of the best point guards in the Ivy League. T.J. Bray has been ridiculously efficient so far this season, and they're both big guys. Duran 6'4", Bray 6'5". I don't know if we'll see the defensive matchups there. Maybe James Jones puts Nick Victor or another defender on Bray. But it will be a lot of fun to watch, and I think that matchup may determine the outcome of the Yale-Princeton game.
John Ryan is the Ivy League Digital Network correspondent for the Yale Bulldogs, joining us from New Haven, Connecticut. John, thanks for a couple minutes.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah. Pleasure being with you.
And don't forget, we'll have a preview of the women's slate of games coming up tomorrow right here on the Ivy League Digital Network. Plus, Don't forget, complete action coming up with the games over the weekend, and then on Monday and Tuesday, highlights of both the men's and women's games. Thanks for joining us on Around the Ancient Eight. I'm Dan Loney.